The Atlantic Lifeline. The Battle of the Atlantic was the most important fight of World War II. Without winning it, there would be no D-Day, no invasion of Europe, no Allied victory. Germany's U-boats tried to cut the supply line between America and Britain. If they won, Britain would starve. The invasion army would never cross the ocean. The Allies won this battle with intelligence and technology working together. British codebreakers at Bletchley Park broke Germany's Enigma machine. This gave them ultra-intelligence. German submarines talked to each other by radio. Admiral Donat sent orders from his headquarters. He told his wolf packs where to hunt convoys. The British could read every message. When Ultra was working, only 4% of convoys took serious losses. When the Germans changed their codes and Ultra went dark, losses jumped back up. The numbers proved it worked. The Allies used Ultra to hunt one specific target, Type 14 submarines. The Germans called them milk cows. These were supply boats. They carried fuel and torpedoes to attack submarines in the middle of the Atlantic. One milk cow could keep a dozen attack boats at sea. Ultra gave the exact meeting locations. On October 4th, 1943, American planes found U-460 refueling 3 submarines north of the Azores. The attack boats escaped by diving. The slow tanker could not. Aircraft from USS Card sank it with depth charges. Sinking one milk cow forced 12 attack boats to go home early. No fuel meant no patrol. By the end of 1943, most milk cows were destroyed. The U-boat fleet lost the mid-Atlantic. They lost the Caribbean. They lost the war at sea. Technology also changed everything. Early in the war, U-boats surfaced at night to recharge batteries. They moved faster on the surface. The Allies had radar, but Germany had the METOX receiver. It detected radar signals and warned U-boats to dive. The British built a new radar using the cavity magnetron. It used a 10-centimeter wavelength. METOX could not detect it. Allied planes added the Lee light, a huge searchlight with 22 million candle power. The tactic was simple and deadly. A patrol plane tracked a surfaced U-boat with the new radar in total darkness. At 1 mile, the pilot turned on the searchlight. The U-boat was suddenly lit up. The crew had seconds to react. Not enough time. Depth charges dropped. The submarine died. This combination raised kill rates to 45%. The Hedgehog weapon solved another problem. Old depth charges forced ships to pass directly over the submarine. At that moment, sonar went blind. The ship guessed where to drop charges. Even near misses caused problems. The explosion disturbed the water. Sonar stayed blind for 15 minutes. The Hedgehog fired 24 small bombs forward, 200 yards ahead of the ship. The ship kept sonar contact the whole time. The bombs only exploded on contact. Misses were silent. The ship could attack again immediately. The bombs sank at 22 feet per second, twice as fast as old depth charges. One hit usually killed the submarine. In May 1943, everything came together. Convoy ONS-5 faced over 30 U-boats, 43 merchant ships against the largest Wolfpack concentration of the war. The weather was terrible. Heavy fog and rain. The Germans thought this protected them. It did not. The escorts had the new centimetric radar. They saw through everything. Commander Peter Gretton led his ships on the attack. They sank 6 submarines in 8 days. Admiral Donitz pulled his fleet out of the North Atlantic. He admitted the cost was too high. May 1943 ended the U-boat threat. The convoys got through. The invasion could happen. The Atlantic was won through intelligence that found the enemy and technology that killed them without warning. The bomber offensive. While the Navy fought at sea, the Air Force attacked Germany's war production. The combined bomber offensive had 3 goals: destroy the factories, destroy the oil, destroy the Luftwaffe. Early bombing raids failed badly. American B-17 bombers flew without fighter escorts. German fighters destroyed them. The P-51 Mustang changed this. With extra fuel tanks, it could escort bombers all the way to Berlin and back. In February 1944, the Allies launched Big Week. From February 20th to 25th, bombers hit every major German aircraft factory: Regensburg, Leipzig, Stuttgart, Schweinfurt. The Allies lost 226 bombers and over 2,600 aircrew. Germany lost 355 fighters. More importantly, they lost the pilots. Aircraft production actually went up in 1944. Albert Speer moved factories into caves and forests, but pilots cannot be mass-produced. The Luftwaffe lost experienced pilots faster than schools could train new ones. By D-Day, German pilots had 30 hours of flight time. Allied pilots had 300 hours. The skill gap killed German pilots. pilots. Bigweek also pulled 88mm flak guns from the front lines. These guns were Germany's best anti-tank weapons. Instead of fighting Soviet tanks, they pointed at the sky, thousands of them. This stripped both fronts of anti-tank defense. The real killing blow came in May 1944. The 8th Air Force stopped bombing factories. They started bombing oil refineries. Germany had no natural oil. They made fuel from coal at huge synthetic plants. Luna, Politz, Blechhammer. The bombers hit them again and again. Albert Speer told Hitler directly that fuel was Germany's weakest point. By September 1944, fuel production dropped 90%. The Luftwaffe had thousands of planes sitting on the ground. No fuel meant no flights. New German tanks were abandoned on battlefields, not from damage. They ran out of gas. The panzer divisions that conquered Europe in 1940 became static guns. They could not move, could not fight mobile battles, could not retreat. The Wehrmacht died of thirst. The Royal Air Force created cab rank for ground support. Squadrons of Typhoons and Spitfires orbited the battlefield at 10,000 feet, armed with rockets and bombs, waiting. A controller on the ground spotted targets, German tanks, strong points, counterattacks forming. He radioed the cab rank. One plane peeled off and struck within minutes, sometimes seconds. This replaced artillery. It was faster and more mobile. German soldiers learned to fear the sound of Merlin engines. Traditional air support took hours of planning. By the time planes arrived, targets had moved. Cab rank planes were already there, already armed, already waiting. Popular stories claim Allied fighters destroyed hundreds of German tanks at Falaise. The real numbers tell a different story. British researchers examined every destroyed vehicle after the battle. Only 10 to 15% of tanks showed air weapon damage. The rest were destroyed by ground fire or abandoned. But air power still won. Fighters destroyed fuel trucks, ammunition carriers, supply columns. Without fuel trucks, tanks could not refill. Without ammo carriers, guns went silent. Air attacks created huge traffic jams. German units could not move in daylight. They bunched up. Artillery destroyed them. The psychological effect broke morale. Commanders stopped trying to move during the day. Units fell apart. The bomber offensive worked on multiple levels. Bigweek destroyed the pilot corps. The oil plan destroyed mobility. Cab rank destroyed the ability to mass forces. Each tactic made the others stronger, creating destruction the Germans could not escape. Western firepower and logistics. The American and British way of war had one rule: spend bullets, not lives. Use firepower, use technology, use logistics. Do not waste soldiers. American artillery was different from everyone else. The Soviets fired for hours with massed guns. The Germans used precision shooting. The Americans used math. Traditional artillery was simple. All guns fire at once, but shells arrived at different times because guns were at different distances. The first shell hit. Soldiers heard it and dove into cover. The next shells hit empty ground. The Americans called this tactic time on target. The Fire Direction Center calculated flight time for every gun. 105mm howitzers, 155mm guns, 8-inch pieces, 240mm guns. Every gun got a different firing time based on how long its shell would fly. All shells arrived at the exact same instant. One German veteran said when American artillery fired, everybody ducked, not just the target, everybody. The effect was instant death, no warning, no time to take cover. Hundreds of shells exploding in the same second. During the Battle of the Bulge, German forces hit Elsenborn Ridge. They expected to break through in hours. American artillery stopped them cold. The 99th and 2nd Infantry Divisions called time on target strikes on attacking waves. Folk Grenadiers and SS troops were caught in the open. The barrage destroyed them. The attack collapsed. Mathematics and explosives won that battle. After breaking out of Normandy, Patton's Third Army moved so fast it ran out of supplies. Ports were destroyed. Railroads were bombed. Antwerp was not open yet. The army built a solution on wheels. The Red Ball Express, 6,000 trucks, 23,000 soldiers, driving 20 hours every day. They moved 12,000 tons of supplies per day, 400 tons per hour, every day. The roads were marked with red balls, one way only. No civilian traffic, no stopping except breakdowns. The drivers were almost all African American soldiers, segregated units. The army said they were not good enough for combat. They proved the army wrong. Corporal Charles Ruckert drove for 36 hours straight. He hallucinated from exhaustion. He dodged buzz bombs. He kept driving. These men faced racism every day. They got the worst jobs and no respect. And they saved Patton's advance. General Patton admitted the Red Ball Express was the only thing keeping Third Army moving. It ran for 82 days. and delivered over 400,000 tons of supplies. Normandy's hedgerows were a nightmare for tanks. These thick earthen walls turned every field into a fortress. Tanks could not push through. When they climbed over, they exposed their thin belly armor to German guns. American armor was dying in the hedgerows. Sergeant Curtis Cullen found the answer. He took steel prongs from destroyed German beach obstacles and welded them to a Sherman tank. The prongs dug into the hedgerow base like a plow. They cut through roots. The tank pushed straight through instead of climbing. It stayed level. The gun stayed ready. The armor stayed safe. General Omar Bradley ordered immediate production. By Operation Cobra, in late July, 60% of 1st Army tanks had these Rhino devices. Mobility returned. The hedgerows stopped being death traps. A sergeant with a welding torch fixed what engineers could not. The 23rd Headquarters Special Troops were not normal soldiers. They were artists and actors. Their job was creating phantom armies. They used inflatable tanks and trucks that looked real from the air. They used huge speakers playing recorded sounds of tank engines and bridge building. The sounds carried 15 miles. They broadcast fake radio traffic matching real divisions. German intelligence heard entire corps that did not exist. They wore other unit patches and talked loudly in cafes about fake movements. Spies reported everything to Germany. In March 1945, the Ghost Army faked 2 full divisions near the Rhine River. German artillery and reserves moved to stop the phantom threat. The real 9th Army crossed 30 miles away. Unopposed, the Ghost Army saved between 15 and 30,000 American lives. Western tactics were built on not wasting soldiers. Firepower replaced charges. Logistics replaced desperate moves. Innovation replaced old rules. Soviet deep battle. The Soviet way of war was completely different. While Western allies used precision, the Soviets perfected something else: deep battle. It was not about winning one fight. It was about destroying the enemy's entire system. Soviet attacks used 3 waves called echelons. Each had a different job. The first echelon was the hammer, rifle divisions and heavy tanks. Their only job was smashing through the German defensive line. This was not subtle. This was pure violence and mass. Once the line broke, the mobile group went through. Tank armies and mechanized corps. Their orders were not to fight strong points. Their orders were to drive deep, 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers, straight into the rear. They destroyed headquarters, supply depots, artillery positions. They cut communications. The Germans could not respond because their command was gone. The second echelon followed behind. They cleared bypassed positions, widened the breach, protected the flanks. 3 waves, 3 jobs, 1 result. The Soviets called artillery the god of war. The numbers show why. Operation Bagration in June 1944 had 181 guns per kilometer of front. Vistula-Oder offensive in January 1945 had 178 guns per kilometer. These were not precision strikes. This was total saturation. The barrage lasted hours, a moving wall of fire just ahead of the infantry. German soldiers called it drum fire. The sound never stopped. The earth shook. Trenches collapsed. Men were buried alive. Survivors came out of bunkers in shock, unable to fight, unable to think. The artillery cleared the path. The infantry walked through. Deep battle needed speed. Tank armies had to move fast and far. The problem was trucks. The Soviet car industry was destroyed or making tanks. The Red Army moved by horse. This is where American help became critical. Under Lend-Lease, America sent over 400,000 trucks to the Soviet Union. Most were Studebaker US-6s. Marshal Zhukov was clear about their importance. He said without American trucks, the Red Army could not have moved its artillery, could not have supplied its tanks deep in enemy territory. The Studebaker made Soviet deep battle possible. These trucks carried ammunition to the front lines. They towed artillery pieces into position. They moved infantry fast enough to keep up with the tank armies. American industry and Soviet tactics together broke the Wehrmacht. This was Allied cooperation in action. Operation Bagration in June 1944 showed Soviet skill at its peak. The Soviets convinced Germany the main attack would come in Ukraine in the south. It came in Belarus in the center. They used Maskirovka, deception, fake radio traffic, dummy tanks, false movements. German intelligence believed it all. Army Group Center was weak, waiting for an attack that never came. When Bagration started, the Soviet advantage was huge. The German line shattered. 28 of 34 divisions were destroyed. Worse than Stalingrad. The advance ripped a hole hundreds of kilometers wide. Nothing was behind it. No reserves, no backup line. In January 1945, the Soviets launched from the Vistula River toward Berlin. They covered 480 kilometers in 20 days. Tank armies moved so fast they overran German airfields with planes still on runways. Pilots were eating breakfast when Soviet tanks arrived. arrived. German command could not react. By the time reports reached headquarters, the situation had already changed. Soviet spearheads were 50 kilometers further. The Wehrmacht command system collapsed from the speed. Speed became its own weapon, not just movement, psychological shock. The enemy could not think fast enough to respond. Soviet deep battle was the most advanced fighting system of the war, designed to destroy entire armies through deception, mass, speed, and depth. The information war. Alongside bullets and bombs, the Allies fought with lies and fear. The greatest trick in military history happened before D-Day. The Allies created a fake army. First U.S. Army Group, FUSAG. General Patton commanded it. It did not exist. Inflatable tanks filled fields in Kent, fake landing craft crowded harbors, radio operators broadcast fake messages, double agents fed lies to German spies. Everything pointed to one target, Pas-de-Calais. The Germans believed it completely. After D-Day on June 6th, Hitler kept the 15th Army in Calais for 7 weeks, 200,000 soldiers sitting idle, waiting for the real invasion, while Normandy burned 30 miles away. That phantom army saved thousands of Allied lives. Operation Cornflakes showed creative psychological warfare. Allied planes attacked German mail trains. After shooting them up, they dropped bags of fake mail. The mail had anti-Nazi propaganda, fake letters, fake newspapers, all subversive. The German post office thought the mail came from the destroyed train. They delivered it. The propaganda skipped all censorship. Delivered to German homes by their own postal workers. The most effective weapon was simple, the Passierschein, a safe conduct pass. It looked like official currency. It had the seals of the United States and Britain. It had Eisenhower's signature. It promised legal treatment under the Geneva Convention. Millions were dropped over German lines. In the chaos of 1945, this paper became a survival ticket. German soldiers surrendered holding them. It gave permission to quit, to walk away from a lost war, to survive. The information war proved the most powerful weapon is sometimes just an idea. The idea that surrender is possible, that the war is already over, that you can live. From the Atlantic to the Eastern Front, from the skies to the shadows, Allied tactics worked together to strangle Germany. Intelligence found the enemy. Technology killed without warning. Firepower replaced lives. Speed broke armies, and lies destroyed the will to fight. Each tactic targeted a different part of the German war machine. Together, they created destruction that could not be escaped.